I'm Paige, and in this video, I'm going to show you how I made these French pleat cafe curtains for my bathroom. So I'll take you through the process from start to finish, even hanging the curtain rod and measuring everything and getting set up. Down below the video, I'll make time stamp marks of different chapters in this video if you want to skip ahead to a certain part where it's just sewing or hanging the curtain rod and so on. But I have all of my supplies. I've got the fabric that I'm going to be using, and I've got some pleat tape, and then I have these little pleat hooks that work with the curtain rod. So I have a curtain rod and then curtain rings that have a little loop on the bottom that these attach to. So it's kind of a two-part process. To get the measurements, I want to hang the curtain rod first to where I can put one of these on the curtain ring and measure exactly from the top of where the curtain is going to sit to the bottom of the window. So let's go set up the curtain rod to get started so we can get our measurements. So here we are in our bathroom. It's not finished. We've been renovating it ourselves. And so I haven't been sewing, but I've been laying all this tile. So all of that tile was laid by these two hands. This window, I would like to have a cafe curtain for some privacy and prettiness, of course. And I like being able to see out, so I want to hang the curtain rod on this line right here. I'm going to put some of this painter's tape up to where I can mark where I want my curtain bracket to go. I'll find the center point of the grid and also the center point of the window jamb because I want it to sit centered in there. And then I'll place that in its spot and mark the holes. This is the cafe curtain bracket that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to put that centered and just mark the holes where I'm going to be drilling. Now that I have my two marks where I need to drill where the screw will be, I'm going to set up for that. So I want these to be really strong, so I will be adding an anchor, and then the screw will go into the anchor. The anchor is a lot longer than the screw, and I know that my drywall is probably only as thick as this screw. So I can drill into the frame of the window if I want to put this all the way in, or I can cut the anchor and just go into the drywall. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut the anchor a little bit shorter. To cut the anchors, I just use a wire cutter on a needle nose plier. It cuts the end off and then it's just a little bit shorter. To put the anchor in, you'll need to get a drill bit that matches the same size as the anchor and drill in the depth of how deep your anchor actually is into those two spots. And you can just tap them in with a hammer because it's close to a window. Be very careful. Now we can take our bracket and screws and screw the bracket into the anchors. Okay, now that I have the brackets up, I can unscrew one of the sides. This is what holds the rod in place. And I'll take the rod out. And I'm going to need to be putting my curtain rings on before I put it in there because they're a complete loop. You'll slide the one into this bracket. Well, actually I need to get this on. And then slide this in. And then you twist this bracket back into place. Here's some of the pleat tape. And this side I've already pre-measured, and I'll show you how I did that. But in order to get the height of the curtain, I'm going to insert one of the hooks, hang it onto this, and then we'll measure from the top of the tape to the bottom where I want the curtain to end. Okay, so I have two of the hooks inserted into the pleat tape. And I'll just hook them onto the curtain ring. And then I'll measure from the top of the tape to the bottom of the windowsill. And that will determine my finished height for the curtain. Okay, I've determined I want the finished height of the curtain to be 34 inches. So now we can go back to my sewing room and get started on the process of making the curtain. So I have my fabric, my thread matching my background color, my pleat tape, and my pleat hooks. These are the 4-prong pleat hooks. Here's an example of a finished curtain, and the way that I determined the width of the pleat tape was just by putting the hooks into the pleat tape until I got to the desired width. So that's one inserted, and I'm going to keep going until I reach my desired width. So here it took 5 hooks to get to the width of half of my window, and I left a 1/2 inch on either side for the seam. So now that I've established the spacing of the hooks that I'd like and the length, I'm going to measure and mark where my hooks get placed. And I'll just measure the length of the tape. And this is the length of the curtain panel plus the 1/2 inch on each side, and then we're going to add another 1/2 inch for the fabric that's going to be turned in on the hems on the side. With this fabric, I have a pattern, so you have to be mindful of making sure that they're going to align side by side. The way that you do that is when you cut out your first panel, you'll place that fabric directly over the rest of the fabric and align it so it matches, and then cut out that panel. To determine the length of the fabric, you're going to account for a 1/2 inch for this top roll, and then however much you want to hem the fabric at the bottom. So leave enough for a hem of whatever depth you like. On my blog, you can find more in-depth measurement instructions. So I ran the top edge through my serger to secure the fabric and make it nice and tidy. And I'm going to be placing my pleat tape with the pockets facing up and away from me. And I'll lay my fabric with the top edge that I serged with the right side facing the pockets of that pleat tape and a 1/4 inch hanging off the end of the pleat tape. So the top is perfectly aligned and even. And a 1/4 inch of the fabric is hanging off the side of the pleat tape, just like this. I'm going to stitch along the top edge a 1/4 inch in, right along the edge of that serged stitching. So just run all the way along the top edge, aligning it as you go. Press that seam to set the stitches, and then flip the curtain up and away from the pleat tape. Give that a good press, making sure everything is even. And then turn the pleat tape again to the wrong side of the fabric. So you can see you've established a front and a back with a nice rolled hem at the top. And then I stitch in the ditch, which is just right on the edge of where the fabric and that pleat tape meet, all along the entire top. So now we have to do the side hems. That's what they'll end up looking like. So we're going to turn that 1/4 of an inch of the extra fabric, and then we'll turn at the 1/2 inch extra for the side. And that pleat tape is doubled over just the one time right here, so you get a nice rigid corner without it being double folded. Stitch along the edge of that and do the same thing to the other side, and you'll have the top and the sides finished. Then you'll move along to the hem at the bottom, and you'll just turn up your hem however deep to get the finished length. And finally, we're going to stitch where the pleats are indented to the side of our center pockets, about 2/3 of the way up. And just make sure that you leave the pocket open. This holds the fabric into that pleat. It's kind of like a stay stitch. So those are my stitches. I didn't go all the way up, it's just to hold it on the bottom. So you're going to insert your prongs into the pleats. Just working those prongs up fully seated into the pocket. And to get that pinch at the bottom, you're going to just make a little stitch, a little tack through those pleats. So just pull your pleats and make them even, situate them till you're happy with how they look. Pinch them together, and about 1/4 inch up from the bottom of the tape where you feel it, you're going to just get a needle and thread and create a little tuck. It's just a small stay stitch. So I go back and forth about 2 times, and then I bury the knot in between that pleat so it's hidden. And that's how you get the pinch at the bottom. So now with everything sewn, you can just put the hooks into the curtain rod rings with that little loop on the bottom. And it's done. And there is a beautiful cafe curtain set for our bathroom. Click the thumbs up down below if you liked this video, and consider subscribing if you want to see more of my future videos. Go get creative and make some cafe curtains that you love. Bye!